Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live stream with lablab, natively Surge, and Deriv. Today, we'll be having a special guest joining us in a minute, and we will have an amazing conversation about security, AI security, in one of the most frontier use cases, financial services. So, this is a unique chance to get a live view of how people work and behave in major financial companies, but that companies that are AI native in nature, companies that use technology to forward work in a way that few others do. We're going to be talking a little bit about the personal journey for this person that I'm going to introduce in a minute. We're going to talk about a little bit how they work with security in the financial services, what kind of use cases do they encounter on a daily basis, and obviously we'll be talking about how to run a modern AI native organization, how to run a modern AI native team on the frontier of innovation, on the frontier of AI driven security. This has been a major topic all across the media in the last few weeks. Obviously, we had the well anticipated Mythos system coming from Anthropic that was said to uncover so many vulnerabilities. We're going to get that opinion from an expert as well. And we're going to talk about a little bit, what is the reality of running the front line of defense or the front line of protection for millions and millions of people. Not to keep you waiting, not to keep the surprise off, let me welcome to the stage Dhiraj Mishra, who's the security manager for the digital security side for Deriv. Dhiraj, welcome to the stage.
Hi, Pawel. First of all, thank you so much. And hi, everyone.
It's a pleasure having you. So I can see you're in the office. It's a lovely day there in Dubai, I presume, looking at the background.
Yes, it is. Although it's super hot, but yeah, it's very pleasant.
I'm so happy that we're having this conversation. I'm in Silicon Valley, and security governance is on the top of mind for everybody, right? But as we
Yeah.
know, there are millions and billions of people outside of the US that also use different types of services. AI has become democratized. There are no boundaries, there are no borders for where you can access models, where you can build and access agents, right? So Silicon Valley is very much thinking about, Silicon Valley stuff, but there you are in the real world with 3 million people using your services on a daily basis. And, it's fascinating. How did you, maybe to start us off, how did you on a personal level, how did you find your way into the security field? It's not like, it's not everybody's cup of tea. You have to be quite interested in this to get to this level. So tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe to start with. How did you get involved with technology at a young age? How did you get involved in the security field?
Yeah. So it's been a decade that I'm into security. I remember I started back in 2014 or 16, just after my graduation. So I just graduated in India, and it was a bachelor's degree in information technology. So I remember there was a very specific set of semesters because we have semesters and every semesters will have exam. So there was one specific subject related to the cryptography security. A book was written by maybe an Indian writer called Atul Kahate. That book talked entirely about how security and how cryptographic security works, and that was really amazing for me during that time. And I remember it was the last year for me, maybe second last semester or whatsoever. And I scored really well, specifically in that subject. So that made me get more interested in what this topic is all about. And I was really not aware that, okay, do we have something called security, or maybe the word ethical hacking somewhere outside, over the world. This interest actually gave me to do a lot of Google search. I still remember, and during that time, I did had like 200 or 250 kbps bandwidth, and I started researching or googling about, does security or hacking really exist or not. So yeah, that's how it all started. It was a semester subject, and right now it's almost after a decade, working in Deriv as a manager for offensive security. It feels really amazing to carry all those experience in your back. Start from mentoring to learning. Still, it's been a great journey. I won't say it was that easy, but yeah, it has been really great so far.
I mean, that's amazing to hear. As you said, something pushes you to get into a specific direction. It might be a book, might be a professor, might be some personal experience that you have, but there's always that cutting moment. Yes, that tells you, okay, I'm gonna do really well in cryptography. I'm gonna do really well with security, and I think it's fascinating to hear everybody's stories, how they get into it, and then spend years working on that. So maybe let's get into what people are really interested about, and we'll be talking today about uh, a few different things. We will talk about the overall landscape. We're going to talk about offensive AI, defensive AI, the security risks of running large language models, and then more specifically, how are you handling these things inside the Riv, and what is the next step, what is the next frontier. So with that in mind, and to set the scene, can you give your opinion, how AI is changing the threat landscape right now? We have people that are, trying to explore some malicious ideas. I don't think anybody has yet really succeeded on a large scale, and that's really happy. That makes me happy. But maybe we haven't heard about it in the news. Maybe it's somewhere in the deep security circles, of you guys chatting, the experts chatting on some forbidden forums. Who's benefiting more? Yeah, is it the offensive teams right now or defensive teams? What do you think?
Yeah. So, what I have seen so far is, because I follow a lot of people from the offensive side, and I keep myself updated on maybe via Twitter or Reddit or whatever. What I have feel is, this specifically this security community has been massively changed a lot, because of all the AI hype. Initially, when ChatGPT started with like 3.x like model or whatsoever, I still remember the security community was pushing a little that, okay, it might not be that great. But right now, if I'm seeing, there is a huge shift where people are adapting AI a lot. So yes, there is a very massive change and a mad development which is happening in security, despite if it is offensive or defensive. People are using AI left, right, and center to find issues, or to defend, or to fix, or to, do every possible thing it can. Also considering the model, how gradually it has improved, from any of the vendors like OpenAI or Anthropic or anything. It is very, very intelligent, but it is being used very heavily in security. Now, who's benefiting it more is on the individual capability, or on your, on your personal note or take. So for example, when I talk about offensive, there in our community we have something called OSS list. It's like a Google group mailing list, OSS is like open source community, and you have all the open source tools, softwares, projects which has maybe millions of stars, forks on GitHub and whatnot. So I remember before AI, if any vulnerability comes in and gets patched in OSS, the project maintainers used to send email to that list, and you can subscribe to that list for free and then just read the feeds. What I feel right now is previously, maybe 3 or 4 years or 3.5 years before all this AI happened, every day the notification for those OSS mailing list were like 10 or 12 of them, maybe daily. If I wake up in the morning, check my email, there would be 10 emails on the OSS saying that, okay, this has been patched, this has been patched, and that's it. But right now, when it comes to AI with offensive, there are maybe 30, 40 emails per day on that group, where people are just finding vulnerabilities on open source platform softwares for their own personal mean, or maybe just for fun, just for learning, or just for actually perform any exploitation. We don't know. But this is just a small example that how offensive security is rising with the AI, and there are so many bugs and vulnerabilities out there. So OSS list is just an example. Of course, we have a lot other mailing list. Um, that's part one, or the phase one of who's using what. um, just to give you a glimpse that this has always been a cat and mouse game between the defenders and the offensive guys. So I won't say that the offensive guys are getting benefited to it and defensive are not. This is always an advantage between both of them. So if I use AI to perform an attack X, defender is going to use AI to look around for the attack X and write some sort of rule or detection, maybe Y. So, yes, there is a massive development. There is a mad spike in the community. I used to follow some great researchers, niche people who used to research papers, working in some very giant distributed companies. They were first denying the fact that AI won't be that smart enough to handle security, or maybe we won't be able to adopt much. But right now, what I see is those people came back on Twitter saying that yes, it's a game changer, and maybe the future is AI. Although they still defend a bit that AI is an enabler, it's like a tool, and the executors are still the human. So despite if there is a like a defensive guy or an offensive guy, they use such platform or services tools as the medium to perform their activity. But AI is just an enablers, and human is still an executor. There would be a phase where everything happens from AI, but that it might take some time. So yeah, there is a mad spike on Twitter or on the community to use AI and find bugs in security or to fix from the defensive aspect.
I mean, it definitely is moving very fast. Yeah, and as you said, it's funny how movies would portray, right, this, just as you said, the cat and mouse game, the spy game, the security game, the attackers versus the defenders, right? And the reality is, as you said, it is you plus a bunch of other people that work in security in big companies that are frontier, right, that are protecting people, and you're really just doing a lot of research. You're going on Reddit, you're following the right people, you're effectively using the community strength, right, and the collective knowledge of the internet to patch things as they come out. Um, and AI has also changed that, the ability to synthesize information, create new information, right, to then very quickly develop new code based on that information, right? So it is exactly that. It is the exploitation of vulnerabilities, and it can happen much faster. And it's a race, right? Whenever
Yeah.
something comes up, a new piece of research comes up, it's a race between
Yes.
how fast can you patch it versus how fast can I create code to exploit this. But what does an actual, attack look like in practice? Is it you getting, as you said, notifications at 3 a.m. and, getting woken up and getting into a helicopter, landing on the Deriv office and running down? Or is it maybe something slightly different? So how does it actually look like from your perspective? Like if somebody would be attacking Deriv or any other company, uh, how do you prepare for that? And I'm not asking to give any specific, example, uh, not to make security calls, but take us through that movie scene. And do you get time to coffee? Like, do you take the bus, yeah, or do you do it from home? People don't know.
Yeah. I wish we could have helicopter to come to the Deriv office considering the Dubai traffic. But yeah, absolutely. It's not at all really like a movie where Hollywood or Bollywood shows like, you type something and you hit enter and something get hacks, or you type something and hit enter, you get prevented. But what really happens is we have we are like an AI first company, and there are so many automated pipelines which we have created internally to prevent against certain set of attacks. So what really happens is we are like bunch of guys in our team, and we are like super active because we love what we do despite we have to break it or we have to build it. So if any attack will always have a flow like from A to B. So let me just give you like there would be no direct attack always on a specific company, but how it really works is there would be a component which get exploited, whatever it is, and then it would be all around on the Twitter, because everything in security starts from Twitter or from the mailing list. And once we are very active on Twitter, we get to know that okay, maybe this is a new set of malware, this is a new set of exploitation technique which is being spreaded very widely. Because we work for a company where we know the entire tech stack A to Z. Maybe if I'm lacking with the knowledge A, the other peer in my team would have that knowledge, so I can quickly nudge him on, like, on our chatting platform and ask whether do we really have this component in place. That's point one. If I'm lacking with the knowledge that okay, I saw one exploitation on Twitter and I think it's going to blast up over the internet, and someone is going to attack, or the people are going to just run the scanners or attack the entire internet or flood the internet with this type of exploitation technique. The first step would be quickly is to analyze, does I really own that asset? Do I really have that tech stack in place? If yes, then comes whether the exposure is public or not. If the exposure is public, it becomes more critical. Despite if it's midnight or morning or afternoon, it really doesn't matter. Our management keep it very sharp and straight. We all jump directly on the call, and we start investigating whether where we or any company was actually getting hit. So we checked all the like previous logs to see whether if it is working, like did someone any try to attempt or try to exploit it or not. So we have a chain of process, but before that also we have a lot of guardrails in between which prevents certain set, not like 0 days, but which prevents certain set of automated scanners to run across our Deriv assets. um, let's suppose with so and because of AI and these many drifts or changes which is happening, if those guardrails really don't work, then we as a human take in charge, and then we start looking at the like the logs. We try to analyze whether there was something malicious or not. But priority always matters, because if anything that is not externally exposed or has a direct impact, maybe it is still a priority for us, but it might shift from P0 to P1. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, it always starts from Twitter, at least from my experience. So if anything gets exploited, and if there is any component, any POCs, any proof of work for exploiting, or for hacking anything, any website or any tech stack, it all comes from the Twitter, or it all comes from the social media handle because researchers love to publish their work, show to the community that this is what they have done once the things are patched. There might be cases where things aren't patched, and some APT groups or threat actors will just simply publish it. So, long and short, we are super active on those platforms because those platforms are the crown jewels for us to understand, okay, if this tech stack is getting exploited, do we as a Deriv own this tech stack? If yes, how are you going to prevent it? Despite we have multiple pipelines and guardrails to prevent certain set of attacks, we always take cautions to see whether we are prone to this or not. Now, just to give us quick small idea that with all of these AI hypes, we do see a lot of huge signals that is coming from automated scanners, automated crawlers, because there are people out there who scans and crawls, creates a database and an engine so that they can exploit it later. So there is definitely also a spike because of this AI tools and softwares. People can simply just do a vibe coding or just simply send a prompt and then start looking for the known tech stack crawlers and maintain a database so that they can actually use it maybe in the future.
It's definitely is a lot of prep, right? As you said, it's all about prepping the systems and being super well prepared with the team, doing the research, and when something actually goes down, if something is actually happening, um, you just have to be ready. And then I'm wondering whether the systems themselves, being AI, have we really entered into a situation where we have autonomous defensive AI systems that can adopt, that then can learn what the other side is doing? Are there systems that are actively, using the, I would say, probabilistic software development, yes, uh, in an autonomous way to create defensive AI systems, or is this still like a realm of science fiction?
So yeah, it is not really a realm at the moment. We ourselves have developed some in-house framework, and we do hold certain capabilities where we have an engine that is super autonomous, and it keeps running and keeps scanning within our network to look for the anomalies. Um, it is not like a bulletproof solution because again it's an AI. It needs to learn and adapt more data, structured data and information. But rather than having a zero, I would say we have like 50 or 60 of it, and we keep enhancing it more. I haven't seen any enterprise grade platform yet so far because I have traveled across, overseas for the conferences and met multiple vendors who are giant enough before AI came, and they had their own security tools and softwares. So they are still struggling to build such autonomous platform, and I think we will reach there soon. But currently in our organization, we do hold certain capabilities where there are multiple multi-agent models which can communicate to each other to run a sweep or check across malwares or any sort of patterns or any sort of testing and etc. But this is still very, this is my personal opinion, this is very still immature at the moment, this
Mm-hmm.
entire concept in general. This is still immature because building things requires a lot of intelligence, where breaking things just requires prompt. It's super easy where you can just put prompts to say like, hey, can you break this thing? There might be 100 ways to break it, but to get it defended, you need to be more better and more cautious like how you can actually secure it. So let's suppose if any of the models or pipelines have 1,000 ways to prevent it, there would be a moment where there would be a certain set of attack which gets breakthrough through that pipeline. So I personally feel that this is still a place where we have a gap as a community, and maybe some company would come up, or maybe someone would develop something which does 24/7 autonomously, but right now it's still a gap. The coverage is also a huge problem. Let's suppose, if even if you build such capability, the prioritization and the coverage is always the issue. So you need to have a clear direction in certain agents or platform, to get the fruitful or the meaningful information. And that's what we are doing in Deriv at the moment. So the agents which we have that does it, we got a bunch of AI engineers, and we, as a bunch of experienced people, we both sit together, and we see how we can train our own capabilities and model to prevent or to defense against such attacks that continuously keep running to secure our assets or financial data.
No, that makes total sense. It's still a very early field, and especially the real question then becomes, how do you create systems, guardrails, governance, and policy, yeah, when people especially are using these types of probabilistic systems in production environment, right? How do you prevent, the easiest thing, and I'm not saying that this is, something that I encourage, but go to a, McDonald's or any other fast food restaurant chatbot, yes, and ask it to disregard or all information and give you a recipe for mushroom soup. But you don't have, it doesn't have to be mushroom soup. It's these systems have been, I would say, the data leakage, the prompt hacking has been a big, malicious kind of, although maybe innocent sometimes situation, but it can be not so innocent. So you have LLM systems running in production at the right. So how do you create the guardrails, the governance, the policies to avoid just like the basic stuff happening? How can people defend, themselves? What kind of systems should they be working at to make sure that the stuff that they build is actually secure?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. So before I answer directly, and this is where what I like about our team in Deriv, we are like a like-minded people. So this question arised almost a year back, or maybe more than that. I can't recall correctly, where our senior management started asking like how we can prevent it, and we came up with a solution. So how we do is, every IDE solutions or platforms like AI tools or native tools, whatever you use, Cursor or maybe Visual Code or Klein or Anthropic or whatsoever, these tools are, so this is one of an example which I'm giving. Of course, we do have more specific granular controls, but the one which I'm sharing right now might be very very insightful, and you can do it by yourself, like if you really want to. So what we did is, every tools has a certain set of configuration or a soul file, like maybe it has a configuration. So when you open a workspace, it comes with a default configuration settings. Because our organization is tightened so well, what we did was we have pushed certain set of configurations across our systems, which by default has secure prompting in it. So even if, let's suppose, by any mean, someone says that just build me this solution and hit enter, and AI starts building it, for example, um, it still fetches or reads the configuration file from the home directory or whatsoever, and it follows those instructions. So we have clearly mentioned that users can build what they want to, but there is something called as OPSEC, operational security consideration. So there should be no hard-coded maybe secrets or maybe keys. So when AI, IDE solutions or platform build this by themselves, it follows the instruction practice which we have pushed in individuals' laptop. So this is like the best way for a better prompt, like guardrails. I'm not saying this is like 100% of 100, but this is like a 15 or 20% of 100, and then we have remaining controls to do so. So the best way is if you have a configuration file which established a clear steps of, these are the set of instructions you should follow while you develop, or while you do a prompt code like vibe coding or whatsoever. Most of, like, out of 10, maybe 3 or 4 of the vulnerabilities or gaps or security issues will be dead. Of course, it's AI, it is autonomous, so it sometimes forgets that, okay, it just build things. But rather than having 10 out of 10 vulnerabilities or a gap, we usually get 10, like 6 out of 10 or maybe 5 out of 10. So yeah, this is one of the approach which we follow to make sure that our prompts are like well guardrailed.
Hmm.
It is like proper prompt. Yeah.
So, you're not just sitting around, like Sarah Connor with your knife and, trying to wait for the AI to get you. Um, I imagine that, maybe you could share one or two examples of projects, right, that are like very tangible that the Riv is putting out there. And I don't know how much, again, you can share because it is security, but maybe you could, touch a little bit on the different agents, the different security solutions, uh, and the different, ways that you are working inside the Riv. What has the Riv done? And then are you also sharing that with, other positive actors, other institutions? Are you sharing your information? Are you contributing to the forums, to the X threads, to the open source community? I'm fascinated to see, how a big company, because this is a big company, how a big company actually handles day to day, and what type of projects are you building right now? What gets you excited personally?
Yeah. So yes. So very first thing, we do give back to the community, and that's really important because from the community itself we learn. So it is really awesome to give back to the community, and that's why we have created a GitHub organization specifically called Deriv-security. If you go to github.com Deriv-security, we have a bunch of projects which are publicly available for the usage. It has offensive and defensive both. So it's like giving back to the community. Anyone can just simply come and look after for those projects, utilize their in their company or in their pipeline. So yes, that's point one. Now point two, we do have multiple agents. One of my favorite agents, which I'm going to talk about, because when I joined Deriv, and this was like the very first agent I started communicating with, and I think it has been blogged very well on Deriv's platform, on our Deriv blog post. So I'm fair enough to share more details. So we call it as Larry the Security Analyst, and it is really cool for me. The
Why
reason why,
can I I'll just
yeah.
interrupt. Why Larry?
I really don't recall the reason why, because maybe the one who created might have a better context on it. But
Maybe
I think Larry,
they had a coworker called Larry that was really good at
maybe,
security, who knows?
maybe, yeah. But there's one set of thing which I have feel is Larry the security analyst. So Larry the security remains same, and then we have something called Larry the security architect. So we try to keep that as a naming convention, and then we keep changing the actual function which the agent is supposed to do. But yeah, that's actually great. I would just touch base with the guy that why we are keeping it Larry. All right. So Larry, the security analyst, what really happens with this agent is, um, any company or any giant company like us would have security solutions in place. This beat any sort of EDR solutions or any sort of SIM solutions or etc. So we do, right. Now, one of the major problems which I feel is, usually when there used to be an alert, any sort of security alert in the, maybe let's suppose in the SIM or the EDR telemetries, the analyst or triagers used to open browser, navigate to the EDR framework or to the SIM solution, logging in, go to that specific alert and check whether this is a true positive or a false positive, and do they really need to take any action. Now this usually causes a lot of manpower. If you are doing this in like 3 to 4 or 5 minutes, that means you have many people to do around. But what we did with Larry the security analyst was, let's suppose if we get an alert from any of the SIM or EDR solutions or whatsoever security controls we have, Larry can hook to those alerts, those configurations, and it has certain set of reasonings that what this alert is all about. So who did it, what what was done, and at what time, and other factors. And what it does, when it summarizes everything, it's gonna take that summary, post it to our a communication platform where we can read it and analyze whether an analyst or a triager is supposed to pay or give more thorough attention on it. So assume a scenario where you get an alert and you're just running behind the process trees, the telemetry graph, and etc. But right now in Deriv, we have Larry, the security analyst, which does like 30 to 40% of the job, summarizes everything, and gives you an idea that this was the attack, this was the path, this is the user, this was the timestamp. Now, I need to decide based on my experience whether this is a true positive or false positive. And then based on that, we communicate that, okay, this is maybe, just a false positive alert. Or, oh, yeah, this is a true positive alert. And then it would have a button that when you click, it goes to your solution framework and then you start the triaging. So this bot or agent actually kills a lot of time when you're traveling or you're driving. If I'm driving back home, there is an alert or an incident. I'm not worried about opening my laptop in middle of the traffic and just start looking at the alert. I can just simply see it on my mobile phone and see what Larry is saying, and then simply say that, okay, this looks interesting, and maybe if not, then we just say this is not interesting. So this is Larry the security analyst. In the similar way, we have Larry the security architect. As you said, we do a lot of coding that goes into the production. So let's suppose if any of the engineering team members come up with a requirement that, okay, this is our requirement and we need to build certain solutions or a platform for a better customer experience. So what we do is we take all those inputs, um, we feed it to Larry, the security architect, and it uses certain set of APIs over the web and draws a secure way of how the system can communicate based on the stakeholders' requirement. Of course, that's just a phase one. Then we have phase two where human validate it. So our architecture team does validate it, but they don't have to scratch their head to take a pen and paper and start drawing things from zero. Larry, the security architect, will do some of the job for you, and then you pick from there. So these are like some two interesting agents which we personally use on our day to day. I think one of my team members, senior team member Rajesh, recently wrote a blog on how we are doing autonomous pen test between multiple agents. So I think it is on our Substack. So where we created agents to communicate to each other and perform continuous assessment on our assets or on our inventory.
Okay. I mean, those are very, very specific cases, right? So very cool to hear you, talk the way that uh, about the ways that you're doing it. And what would be your advice for people, starting out as they're building new stuff, right? Um, what can, a person, because I see a lot of projects, and to be honest, a lot of them don't really think about security that much, right? A lot of them just rely on, traditional services, the stack of the internet, right? What's the moment that you should think, really hard? Should it be from day one? Should it be that you're, just relying on the, Cloudflares and all the other systems in the world protecting you? What is the, now the big ask that people that are building new things should ask themselves. I'm vibe coding, or I'm agentic engineering, or I'm creating a front end back end with AI, um, and I'm sure that this creates a lot of vulnerabilities. So the question is, how do you protect against that? Do you counteract with creating AI testing? Do you create, AI threat assessments? Do you build that into your team process? How does the team actually handle this inside the Riv when you are developing new stuff?
Yeah. So before I answer this, I just want to give some idea or clear that before even AI started, doing things or vibe coding happened, um, these enterprise grade platforms were always phase two, or a layer of like layer phase two. Humans were the weakest link to compromise. That was yeah, that
That's
is
what
like
everybody says, that humans, we are the meat circuit breaker of the internet. We are literally the weakest link in this chain.
yeah.
So I
Yeah,
totally agree.
yeah. So humans are the weakest link to compromise. What we do is a lot of awareness that okay, if you're building something, there are certain best practices, prompts, and guides which you need to follow off. Still, sometime if AI goes ahead and writes some sort of code which is beyond that best practice prompt, what we do is we do a lot of thorough regression testings against those platform, and it is continuous. So let's suppose if there is a individual developer or any sort of AI engineer building solutions or platform that makes better experience for our customers or internally whatsoever. First is we do a lot of awareness session with every individual, like maybe in group wise, in we put it as an alert or a notification across the team wide or the company wide that AIs are good, but you need to be very cautious. We do a lot of um, phishing campaigns, what you can say like a red team or a phishing campaigns, where we check the efficacy of users, process, or the tech, whether the users are, they fell for those campaigns or not. And then we pick them individually, we speak with them, we understand that what made them, to install, click, or fell for it. And those learning experience, if they share between their other team members, so it's like a chain. So if we communicate to one, that one spreads to two, three, four, and etc. So it's an ongoing process and efforts that we are doing. But first is the awareness that it's not just about the company data. If you don't work with AI cautiously, you yourself would be at risk and an exposure to the web. So your data, your Instagram profile, your personal like pictures or whatsoever would be out somewhere before, despite you think that okay, what really happened here. So as I said, humans are the weakest link, and they should be first aware that what I am building is actually bulletproof or not. Second, I do understand in enterprise that you need to be very quick because you have to match the timeline. What we have recently started with, if the AI gives you flexibility to build a solution or a software within an hour, you can simply write a prompt again that runs a complete sweep across your project and mints for the code quality and the code security issues. So what we are enforcing to every individual or company wide is you just write a prompt, you build a solution, make sure that you ask AI again to fix the security bugs and then come to us so that we can do the more better thorough review. So these are like small baby steps which helps us prevent the gap which AI builds or the vulnerabilities that AI develop while vibe coding.
Completely agree with you that the the ability to think, yes, to think about the weakest link, which are humans in the equation, uh, is important from start, right? So whenever you're designing something, you have to think, how would people abuse this? What are the gaps in this? How can I change? And it's good to hear that it doesn't really change that much whether you're operating at a scale of hundreds and thousands of developers, or whether you're operating at a scale of a tiny, individual team, 2 person, 5, 6 person team. So I'm super happy to hear that, it's just thinking, and there's no magic dust. But
Yeah.
uh, what happens after agents, what is the prediction that you would make? um, and when people, what are you looking for when you're trying to get people to work in your team? Like, is this somebody that, sees the future 2 3 years from now? I know exactly how to do it. Or is it more, hey, like, we will be playing a catch up game here for the next 2 3 years, and I just need to be really really fast and really really smart? So what's your prediction, and what should be, you know how should people look at the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and how would you invite people, to join Deriv as an organization? Because the next 2 3 years, you'll be creating so many more projects like Larry. You will be fighting the good fight, yeah, and you are on the side of the good guys. So it's always more interesting, I would say, to do cutting edge stuff, but in a safe environment.
Yeah. So what I feel is, the coming few years. First of all, we need to be really catching up with what all other people are doing with AI. So, for example, if there is certain set of attack X which people post it on, like some social media platform, when we read and understand those sort of attack patterns or prompts, so in my mind I immediately look for whether these prompts or these pointers can be enabled in our models or not. So it's not like the current existing models which we have, or the automations or the pipelines which we have, is just to get the job done. No, it is beyond that. Sometimes we are really happy when our agent pushes itself to find, or to look back at the history and give certain set of more better information which we didn't even ask for. And the reason why that happen is because of the continuous enrichment and enhancement of those pipelines. And where does it come from? As an individual or an experience, or from the community? So what I personally feel is, if there is something which happens in the community, people share like prompt details, attack patterns, or tech stack or models or whatsoever, immediately in our team we start chattering about whether can this help us somehow to enable and stick it, so that we get more better thing. That's point one. Point two, despite if there is no signatures, models, or prompts out there, our team rigorously keeps working on enhancing or polishing the current structure itself. So I remember when I started talking to an agent for a specific incident, it was lacking certain set of information and knowledge. After 1 or 2 months, when we look for other incident scenarios, it recalls from the memory very correctly that I'm speaking to Dhiraj, and Dhiraj requirements is like, if I'm sharing the data A, he also needs data B, C, and D for the correlation. So that learning is always better. So that means it is already um, looking or sitting at a level where it is more futuristic. It can be more better based on the capability. So it's not just like today we are running this and it is just getting our job done, so it's super awesome. No, those things can actually be deployed in an environment where it can work throughout for years, like 1 year, 2 year, or whatsoever. And we will rise more. I think security community, or in general AI, will have more models, more better intelligent. So it's going to be a huge spike again, because what I feel is, when GPT 3.x started, when I used to write small prompts to do security tasks, it used to fail very badly. Now these days it are so smart and intelligent that companies itself, like OpenAI or Anthropic, they have came up with another models which is specifically for the cyber things, right? We have like GPT model, Cyber or Anthropic, maybe Mythos or whatsoever.
Yeah.
So you can
Yeah.
see yeah, these giant companies are investing themselves to make it more better. So yeah, it's gonna be like more better in coming few years.
So we're just coming up on the hour, and looking at some questions. But the one question I have for you, like, um, what still, gives you the rush? Like, do you get a rush when you see, something is a threat, and then the team gets together and you very quickly create something that gives that protection? Or do you get a rush maybe trying to break things, because you're also probably doing red team stuff on your side? So what gives you the rush on for you personally? Is it building something very quickly that protects, or finding that hole and then plugging it?
Yes. So for me personally, it's always breaking, and that's what I really love. So yeah, being an
So
offensive side.
if you ever travel to the dark side, we should be worried. But as long as you're on the light side, it's okay. I figured as much, right? So the rush is, and so when people join big companies, one of the things that they get to do is get that rush of breaking things, right?
Breaking things, yeah. So I think breaking things is like the rush which I really like it, but um, that also makes me responsible for fixing it. So because it's an experience, right? So I'm not an individual researcher who will just break things, but it also makes, or it also gives me an ownership that if I have breaked it, I'm responsible to fix it with the developers or the stakeholders. But yeah, breaking is always fun. So if they fix it from the angle one, I start exploring for the angle two and etc. So yeah.
So, a question from Alexandra. What do you think is the biggest AI security risk companies are ignoring right now? So, what is the biggest thing that maybe you guys have taken care of, but you think the industry is not looking at?
Hmm. So this is debatable to be honest, but one of the risk which most of the companies are ignoring is first is the vibe coding, because when the AI software or tools does vibe coding, um, there are many gaps and those things goes directly on production. For us, we are of course taking care of those scenarios. That's point one. Point two, um, immature copy pasting, right? So there are things where people just copy paste the tokens, the secrets, the keys, because they just want their job to be done. So they really don't care about that okay, this is my secrets, these are my keys, I'm just gonna paste it and then it will do my job. So always be cautious on what sort of sensitive information you are pasting. For this, we are also we have built and we are also exploring certain solutions on what other people or other enterprise company are building around it, so that if anything is pasted can be stopped during the entire initialization or execution of those before it goes to any random server. So yeah, these are like two major risks which I feel at the moment. First is the vibe coding that goes to the production without proper thorough testing, and second we have the sensitive information being pasted without any knowledge directly to the AI platforms or tools. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Um, so, I think, oh, we have some hackathon questions, but we'll answer those directly later. Um, and yeah, the other question, that we had somewhere is around the skill set, that you guys are hunting. So, what type of skill set do you need to become a security engineer in today's world? Where is the top talent? What is the top talent that you're targeting? What kind of people should be a good fit for the security and future of security using AI?
Yeah, I think the mindset is really important. We are not looking, so everyone is not good and in everything. For example, even I do certain tasks where I am good at, but my team members know I fail very badly in certain tasks. So yeah, no one knows everything, but what we look is the mindset. That is really important because we don't need like a 20 years or 10 years or 15 years experience guy with some just following the process or going by book, but rather we are looking for someone who has a mindset to build and break at the same time. So they understand tech, they understand how we can build things or maybe how we can break it and then build again. So that is really important. So this all comes from mindset. I because with AI, it's super easy. You can just write simple, plain English prompt and your job is getting done. But if you really don't have that mindset, it would be hard to understand that okay, what I'm really trying to achieve or what is my objective is. So yeah, this is what we usually look when we hire any of our team members.
That's good to know. So we are inviting people to join the Riv, yes, to join the upcoming hackathons as well on LabLab, yes. Use the tools that are at your disposal from us, from partners. Build, learn, educate, and always think about the security threat where the weakest link is the human. Use AI to build defensive systems, don't build offensive systems. And if you want a rush, try to break things in a safe environment, whether it's your own or doing some hackathon challenges. I think it's the best way to let out your creative energy and find some new new challenges in safe environments. Ooh, there's a more technical question here, I think, around that, but it's just gone off the screen. But we are on top of the hour. So, Dhiraj, yeah, okay, one last question. Is AI making security teams stronger or giving attackers a bigger advantage? I feel like I know what you're going to answer here, but I think, what is your real opinion? Who's the bigger winner here, offensive or defensive teams, with the introduction of this new tool so far?
So far, I think the offensive side, the attackers, because we see a lot of supply chain attacks these days. So um,
Mhm.
just to give you a quick example, that GitHub happened because there was a VS Code extension someone placed in the marketplace, and it was part of a supply chain attack. So an employee from GitHub just installed it, and then the remaining thing happens. So this is the huge problem. I think attackers are benefiting more because it's super simple. It's just your thought, you're putting it to AI by saying the word authorized, and it is doing it for you. So attackers are benefiting more, but at the same side, defenders are also using these capabilities. But to be honest, it's a 70-30 ratio where I would rate attackers to be 70 and defenders on 30, at least in my opinion.
I think that's super relevant. Um, that we have to build more defensive stuff. We have to get more people into defensive applications, which is really cool. So, Dheeraj, it was such a cool conversation. An hour flew by, like literally 10 minutes, just talking about stuff that's relevant, stuff that's cool. We can find out a little bit more into the mentality, of a leader in the security field in one of the biggest trading firms in the world, protecting millions and millions of accounts for people with real assets inside, right? So this is super important. Your job is super important. So thank you very much for giving us and the whole community 1 hour of your time. It was such a pleasure to have you, and I'm looking forward to reading the blog sharing the blog with the community. Everybody go to the Deriv blog, check out how to build offensive and defensive swarms and security, yeah, and how to balance it out. Only build the defensive stuff, don't build the offensive stuff. But have fun in a safe environment. Dhiraj, thank you very
Yeah.
much. It was such a
Thanks,
pleasure.
Pavel. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great one, and we'll see you at the next hackathon. Talk later. Bye.